Paths of Reconciliation with Successful Living. I've done 3 presentations, and hopefully you'll have a chance to check them out. One is called The Time Paradox. Some tips on helping you not lose track of time. We'll also talk about in the second installment, career stallers, things that you want to avoid in order to make sure that you have a successful career. And we'll wrap it up with don't blame it on the game. And so how do you recover when things go sideways in your career? So hope to see you there and enjoy the presentations, and looking forward to any questions you may have.
Welcome and thank you for joining us. We're here at 1427 Suite E at the Greenville campus. Also, we want to welcome in the mother campus that in Greenwood, 210 Padsy Road, and of course to our virtual campus and to all of our global connections and international connections. We're happy that you're here. We're going to continue this series, The Power of Now, the next level of you. And I think we're going to talk about today,
don't blame it on the game.
Don't blame it on the game. Now, the whole reason and purpose for this is to nurture the body of Christ. Because not only are we an earthly citizen, we're a heavenly citizen, but we must know that there are some things that we need here on earth. So I'm going to put you back in the hands of Daniel Neal Cohen, who has 30 years of HR. He's in from the West Coast. He's going to share some information with us. If you haven't watched the first presentation, you need to watch them all, take notes, and it will help you change your life.
Thank you, sir. So don't blame it on the game. Sometimes accountability hurts. One of my favorite books by a man named Harvey Coleman is titled Empowering Yourself. Empowering Yourself by Harvey Coleman. He's the man that came up with the concept of PI, performance, image, exposure. The 3 things that must happen in order to have career success. And in Harvey's book, he states that 10% of your promotion is tied to performance. Now, he's not saying don't perform. He's just saying when it comes to being promoted, performance accounts for about 10% of the equation. Image accounts for about 30%. And we talked about image being your brand. Now, 60% is of a person's promotion is tied to exposure. And exposure is who knows you. And so that's why the networking, and people say, you got to network, you got to get your name out there, you got to because if people know you, they know your brand, you combine those 2 things, that's 90%. If you have a good reputation, a good image, and people always talk about your quality of work, and a lot of people know it, a lot of key people, key decision makers know it, all of a sudden, you're like, your stock price is going up. And so that's why in his book, he calls it the upward mobility formula. 90% of promotions are based on who knows you and what is your image. We're all paid to perform. That's why he put 10%. He says we're all paid to perform. He called it the entry ticket to play the game.
Okay.
That's just to get in the game. Leaders aren't going to talk about everybody the same way, but they will talk about the future rising stars differently. And how those rising stars get noticed? They have a solid image. They have a solid reputation. They're politically savvy. They just have a great image and great followership. And then what happens is when that happens and more people know you, as specifically key decision makers, that 60% of the equation, Then all of a sudden, when key roles need to be filled, it's a shorter list of names that pop up because the key decision makers are thinking about them before the role is even open. They're thinking about them when they're about to move someone out to another position. They have a plan. It's called a succession plan. They have a plan, a playbook to go to in case they need to move someone in. All great organizations have those. And every leadership role has a succession plan. And how that plan gets filled is through leaders knowing the exposure of the talent they have, and it's a lot of it's based on image. And that's why I say the higher a person goes in the organization, the most important component is their image. That's what separates people from every step of the way, is that person's image. And it's their calling card, so it's very important. Exposure is important too. If nobody knows you or knows about what you've done, then you won't, they just won't be able to recognize you. And so that's why I always tell people, if you don't tell your story, nobody will. And so if you're sitting back waiting for someone to do, or just come to you for a job, or just tap you on the shoulder for something, well, it may not happen. So if you don't tell your story, nobody will.
You're saying if I just work hard and keep my head down, that's not gonna work anymore.
Well, Reggie, I'll see you about 40 years later, and you'll have your head may be hanging a little lower than your tire because your neck may be crooked over.
Wow.
And it's important to work hard.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But people,
but everybody's got to work hard.
That's the 10%.
Right, because everybody's doing that. What separates you?
You're right. Yeah. So people pray for people every Sunday. Oh Lord, let them work hard. Oh, you got to work twice as hard as everybody else. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
Explain that piece.
That was, unfortunately, that was a lot in our community. That was a lot of the advice, and many other communities too. That's the advice we all got, is when we started working. It was like, work hard. And the other one, don't get in trouble, but work hard. And that's one of the reasons why Harvey wrote this book.
Okay.
He's African American. Okay. He worked for a company called IBM when they were really up and coming. He was an engineer, probably the only African American engineer, because this goes way back. And so he was a trailblazer. Okay. And but he kept wondering why he was getting passed over. Promotions passed over, and I think one time he realized, he said maybe it was that dashiki he was wearing for, and it wasn't the image. People no one was like, oh, I can't deal with that.
That is perfect, because that's what I was gonna say. It's going to take more than prayer to get you there.
Oh, absolutely.
And you can go up and I saw someone write something. They gave a seed offering, and they said, Lord, I pray to eliminate debt. Eliminating debt comes with having a budget and finances. Wisdom and revelation comes from God, but application comes from earth. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he wore a dashiki?
Yeah, that's when he went. Well, in my book, if you all read my book,
tell them about your book.
Yeah, have the career you want, play it as you plan it. Is a book I wrote. Have the career you want, play it as you plan it. Now, one of the chapters, I call it Daishiki moment, was and this is an image story. I went on an interview, and it was an engineering draftsperson's job, and it was like one of the best engineering firms in Simpsonville, and I was like, "Oh, if I can get in here, I'm like, hey, I'm in."
I remember that.
Well, I went to the interview wearing MC Hammer pants and red shoes and a red sweater, so my image wasn't quite.
Now tell them where you had been before that.
Well, I was going to go out, clubbing that night, but I was, well, anyway, I was going out that night,
Mm-hmm.
but the MC Hammer pants and the red sweater and the red shoes, just probably what they were looking for. Now I had the skills, but I couldn't get it through the interview because they just couldn't get past the MC Hammer pants.
The perception.
So right, but it didn't hit me until 5 years later why I didn't get that job. This is how disconnected I was with the moment.
No, but here's the point. This is what I want to build off of that. How smart you are. It took you 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. I was driving to from Simpsonville to Sherrall, South Carolina, to another job down there. I was driving and I was going around the curve and I said, "That's why I didn't get that job." MC Hammer pants. And so, but you don't know what you don't know. And I didn't even understand the concept of image at that time. I was fumbling through my career. The first, I'd say 20% of my career, it was by sheer luck. And my rule at the time was, if I'm learning something new in this job, I'll take that job. I was treating it like a tool belt. I put a new tool in my tool belt. If I can get this, I can get this. That served me well until a point when I had to take it to another level. And that's when I really started honing in and studying the craft of what it takes to be decent and great or good or great within HR. And so, so sometimes accountability to yourself hurts. Now, the 3 things, before I get into the 3 tips to help you own your career when things go sideways, and they will go sideways, I'll leave you with one more Harvey Coleman theme. Now, Harvey said that every organization has a game. You need to understand the rules of the game in order to succeed. And that's why I say don't blame it on the game. Because every game that you play, even as a child or even now, if you don't know the rules of the game, you're bound to lose. So you got to understand the rules of the game. Every company has the rules of the game. Every company has its culture. And you have to understand those rules in order to maneuver within the game. To maneuver from point A to point B. So don't blame it on the game. Well, they're holding me back because I'm so-and-so. Or they're holding me back because I'm not too tall. Or they're holding me back, whatever. And so, no, don't blame it on the game. Know the rules to the game so you can play. So the first thing I want you to keep in mind, if you mess up, own the mistake. It's not the end of the world. What you got to do is learn and grow from it. We will make mistakes. If you're trying to do going from point A to point B, mistakes will happen. But I can guarantee you, if you just didn't blow something up so bad, or do something that's ethically wrong, most mistakes people can recover from it. It's that when people don't own it, is when leaders and people kind of like, you're not owning it. Yes, I messed up. But the second thing that should be coming out of your mouth is, well, here's what I learned and here's what I'm going to do next time. And I'll do my best to make sure it doesn't happen again. Own it, pivot, move, don't keep your head down, learn from it, and don't let it define you. Mistakes will happen, but don't let it just throw you off course. The second point is don't ever blame others for your lack of success. Know the rules of the game, then set out to win. I've coached people and I've heard people blame others. I would have got the job if it wasn't so and so. They're friends and they're, it was just so and so and so. They, for friends years ago, and that's why they got the job. Or, the leaders just don't like me. You don't blame others. I mean, when you're really having success, typically organizations, leaders are holding other leaders accountable for success. They want to surround themselves with the best people they can get. A good leader will. If you're with one of those leaders that don't, then maneuver yourself out from under that person, because no matter what you do, they're going to try to probably try to keep you down. But don't blame them for it. Just move with your own plan and move like stealth. Just move. And the third and final point here on 3 tips to help when your career goes sideways, and trust me, careers do go sideways, is that don't let the incidents define you in a negative way. Stick to your plan and work towards your goal. So come back to that goal. Come back to those daily, weekly, monthly, semi-annual activities that you're keeping pace to, and just focus on the longer on the longer vision of where you're going, your goal. And when you get sidetracked, just don't let it stall you. Getting sidetracked could be you're doing everything right, and just because of economic conditions, all of a sudden the company does layoffs and you're caught up in it, and you're out there looking for a different job. Now, what may happen, you'll get a different job, but where you're going in the end still hasn't changed. Your goal hasn't changed. How you get there may. You just redirect your plan. And so negative things will happen. Negative things being, it could be self-induced, something that we've done, or it could be something that's imposed on us that's outside of our control, and things could go sideways there. I remember one time I was asked to do what they call a 360 feedback, and that's when people take this anonymous survey about you. Your boss, that's the top of the circle. Your peers take it, and your direct reports, people that work for you, take it. Hence the 360. And so typically the questions and values that are asked in these 360 are things that are valued by the company. And then people rate you, and you get these scores. I remember when I got my first 360 back, it didn't look good. I was like a bull in the china shop. I was doing my job well, but I was eating bodies along the way. So people were too scared to probably tell me feedback face to face. And so they gave me, you need a 360. And I'm like, a 360? Okay, I'll take a 3. And then when the feedback came and reading the comments, and you get a little humbled, and I'm like, and it was tough. And accountability hurts sometimes. Feedback hurts sometimes. Now, I could have just dug my head in the ground, not taken that feedback, but I learned from it. And out of that, I learned that I had to change my communication style. I had to really understand people's communication styles. I had to meet people at a certain place. And then that's when I called the light bulb went off with me in my career. I said, if I need to pivot here, here, and here. And I really started taking a deep dive into the study of communication styles, the psychology of work, and all of these different dynamics, strength finders, and disc styles, people's working styles. I really took a deep dive into understanding not only just those components, but I latched on to some of the great leaders of the time. There was a guy by the name of Dr. Lane Longfellow, who talked about why each generation brings value to an organization. I said, yeah, there are different generations of values that you have to deal with. You got the great generation, you got the boomers, 2 waves of boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, millennials now. So you got all these generations, and if they are all in the workplace, they all come with their generational values, and you may need to pivot differently on working with them. One style, like I was using, does not fit all. And you alienate instead of influencing. And so that's when I understood there are different leadership styles. And I said, I really need to learn how to be a servant leader. I really need to know how to put others before me. I really need to understand communication styles. And the next thing I know, and I had a great mentor in Joe Raines, in HR who worked on me for 5 years, and he told me a couple of years ago when I was having dinner with him, he and his wife, and he says, Dan, you were my toughest case. When your mentor tells you, and he's a great HR leader, man. I mean, he's great. And he's like, Dan, you're my toughest case. And I reflected back on it. Yeah, I was. I can see that now. But he said, but you know what? It's good. You're paying it forward. Job well done. You're doing what I wanted you to do.
Good.
And so it was like, after all of these years, my mentor finally said, yep, you're there now. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're paying it forward. And so I say this is that you have to learn when things go sideways. It's not the end. It could be a new shining beginning.
Right. All right, go. We got it.
I think it's critical because it does take different things, and it does take a servant leadership type of attitude to be able to help people. And from a pastoral side, I always tell people the staff has two things. One, to catch you if you're falling, and two, to bop you in the head if you're not. And I'm trying to get people from getting bopped in the head. So our next thing we're going to do when we close out, we're going to do one more. We're going to, and I'm going to go ahead and give you this question now in this section. What would you tell yourself if you had to start over? Because you said something on yesterday that was so significant to me that I'm going to have that conversation, because you was like, I had a vision, I had a plan, and I was dead set. And I thought about that, and I thank you for sharing that. But it also awakened me to something. So I said in our final segment, we're going to talk about what will we have told our younger self.
Okay.
So for those of you that have been joining, I thank all of you that have liked, shared, and posted. Also comment on it. If you want to get in and you've been taking notes, go and watch all the 3 or the 4 of the series, and you can email us that through our social media. I think it's HOR-RSM@hotmail.com. You will find it every time. I think they put it in there somewhere, or it may be Gmail something. And I'm going to send it to him because he's on the West Coast, and he will write it up. He doesn't know you, but he'll take what you did and he'll write up something for you. So in 2024, as we head that way, that you will be a much better leader, servant leader, as you move forward. God bless you. We'll see you soon.